As we continue our exploration into the world of modern parenting, it's time to turn our focus to the dynamic journey of adolescence, particularly the transition to adulthood, and the unique challenges and opportunities facing Gen Zs. So welcome back to Today with John and Helen, live on Plus TV Africa. Our next guest, Adefola Shadefade, also known as Fola, is a parenting strategist and teen development expert with over 20 years of experience working with families, schools, and institutions worldwide. As the founder of ADF Consulting and the Executive Parent Ally, TAPA, she empowers teens to thrive and helps C-suite executive parents with clarity and confidence. A certified CBT and NLP practitioner, and that makes me jealous. I've always forever wanted to be an NLP practitioner. Fola has collaborated with global organizations, creating impactful programs like Finding Me, designed to equip teenagers with the skills they need for self-discovery and leadership. As the proud founder of the Brighter Girls Life Initiative, Fola is dedicated to shaping future-ready teens, especially young girls, and is a passionate advocate for parenting as the highest form of leadership. Fola, that's just Fola, not just her. So you're welcome to the show. It's good to see you.
Much,
I can call you Fola, yes?
Yes.
And it's Adefola.
Fola is great.
Okay, so yes, we've been waiting to have you.
Thank you so
waiting to
much.
have this conversation
Thank you.
for a while. Because our Gen Zs are like, they're so delicate now in our hands, but they don't know it, or they don't think so. So now you've had an impressive background in both teen development and parenting. So what inspired you to dedicate over 20 years to empowering families and teens? Could you tell us a bit about that?
I'm sure the 20 years, you probably are calculating. I'm like, I think I'm one of those people that the work I do called, right? I've been working with teenagers while I was very young myself. At the age of about 18, I would go to schools, right? Primary schools, secondary schools. I was early in the university at the time. And I would ask them for permission that I wanted to talk to their students. Sometimes I wonder what they were thinking. In other schools.
Oh. Okay.
I was in university and I already started going into those schools and I would talk to them. Right in the university, I started having women-led, girl-led, youth-led organizations, which I was a leader in. And so since that time, I had been focusing and working on with young people. I started writing curriculum, right, supporting them. So it's been a long journey. And like I said, I'm one of those people that the work called. So it's been an early interest, an early passion in young people, and that's what has, spurred my journey. But I didn't just want to be someone passionate working with young people. So as I grew older, I started doing a lot of certificates. And so at that time, I don't think there was anything in Nigeria as such.
Like
so,
NLP and things.
Even more than that. Yes. I'm a trained youth mentor from youth mentoring in Australia. Most of my certifications were in the States. So I had to open up myself to say that, you know what, I just don't want to be passionate. I want to be equipped. Yes. And that was when I started, exposing myself to certification.
Your profile actually gave me some kind of a complex, actually.
Oh, no, come on.
So I had to proceed. And
you probably would have, you probably also will ruffle me when it comes to communication. So it's really about finding your path, staying on it, and becoming great at it.
Very impressive.
Thank you. Thank you.
So as a founder of ADF Consulting and Executive Parent Allies, TAPA, or is it TEPA? TEPA. So what is your core mission, and how do your initiatives address the challenges parents and teens face today?
ADF the full name is Adolescent Flourishing Consulting. And what we do is to empower teenagers through the transformation of the ecosystem that shapes them. We believe that the environment that teenagers grow in are large determinants of who they become. And so that's why you will send your child to a school and they come back singing songs you probably never know. You know, why? Because every environment they're exposed to, they stay in, has the power of influence over them. So what we do at ADF is to flip the shift in a way that we engage the ecosystems. And these ecosystems are the schools, families, parents, educators, faith-based organizations like churches, youth-based organizations. So we believe that if we can equip, transform, and strengthen these ecosystems, what we have done is that we have created a ripple effect on the teenagers. So that's our approach with ADF. And like you said, TEPA, the Executive Parent Ally, parents from the foundation of who a child is. They should be the one with the compass setting the course of who their children become. And our focus on executive parents is because of the unique, unique face is a niche by itself, right? And what we do, we work with all parents, but TEPA just focuses on executive parents because they are in a unique phase and they also have a unique challenge. And what we do is that we equip them with tailored strategies, tailored system that helps them to win at parenting without sacrificing their career. So as busy executives, crushing goals at work, sometimes they face that hard challenge, if I may say, or the task of how do we balance it? So we come with a new mindset, right? A new idea that it's not just, time is not spelled with the massiveness of it. It's really about how you use it. And that's why we equip them with tailored strategies to build tailored systems for them. For themselves.
Okay, so now you work with teens, you work with C-suite executives. These are like, two ends of the stick, so to speak. So how do these two groups overlap, in terms of the parenting strategies you use, and how do you cater to their unique needs? Because each group would have unique needs. There's an overlap, yes?
There is an overlap.
Please.
The overlap, thank you for the question. The overlap is that both niches are actually unique niches with unique challenges. So teenagers, for instance, is a different phase of development. A lot of times people box teenagers with children, but when children transit from the ages of 9 and when they transit to become adolescents, honestly, things shift. They're coming into their own. They're beginning to look for their identity, discover themselves. The peer influence is higher. Remember that they stay in school for over 7,000 hours of their developmental phase. So the exposure is higher. So both of them are unique niches and they have unique challenges. Now, this is another interesting one. There is the probability of a blind spot with both. A lot of people think once your child is now a teenager, doesn't need to cross the road, knows their left from the right, can feed themselves on the dining table, they become independent, right? And so sometimes you find parents moving back, right? You find even teachers moving back. A lot of teachers expect you to just do well, right? You're a young person, you're a teenager, you're a big girl, so to say. But what we see is that teenagers they have unique needs and they need unique support. So the overlap is that both category or niches have a unique space, they have unique challenges, and they need tailored systems and tailored strategies. So also with C-suite executive, you find that C-suite executive might not be the same people to drop their kids off to school, right? Some of them have to make the decision of maybe their children are in boarding school, they have limited time, and there is also the probability, right, of the blind spot. Some parents think busy executives, sometimes they think once they can give their children or their teenagers the highest quality of life, they are in the best schools. Everything at home is organized. You know, there is the nanny and all of that. So some of them think that a well-organized setting is a well-empowered or a teenager that their needs are met. But we have realized that this is far from truth. So the overlap is that both niches and both focus, they are in a unique space and they need tailored strategies, not the one-size-fits-all. And my work is almost like a doctor, a specialist. What we do is that we create unique strategies or tailored strategies for them so that wherever you are, right, you are able to get the tools, the skills, the support, the system that helps you to navigate whatever phase you are. So that's the overlap.
Yeah, for me as a long-standing parent, and I think I've seen different models evolve.
I know.
Parenting, I believe, and I'm sure you believe too, that parenting has evolved significantly over the years. Right? So from your experience, what would you say are the biggest challenges facing today's parents, especially when raising Gen Zs? The Gen Zs are the new ones on the block.
I know.
So what challenges do you really see?
Yeah, the parenting scope has changed. And the change starts with us. We are now busier. So it was normal. My mom was a stay-home mom. My mom was that mom that, my dad said, stay at home and take care of the kids. Yeah. Even though she started doing business after a while,
but
right?
She was more
she started with being focused. A stay-at-home mom. But right now, we are all working. Dad is working, mom is working. We have busy parents raising teenagers. So we really need to understand that change starts with us. And with the Gen Zs, we're also living in a different world. The exposure, it's become a global village. The exposure, technology, so much has changed with the Gen Zs. Yeah. And so we need new skill set, new structures, bigger conversations, because the scope is different. Teenagers have needs. Before COVID, it was normal not to have a laptop until much later. COVID came knocking, all of us had systems. And systems means exposure on different level, not just good, but also bad. So it's a new terrain. We need new skills. We need new tools.
It is a new terrain.
It's a new terrain.
And things have really changed.
Things have changed. Children need different, they have different needs.
And you see the Gen Zs, I call them the Y generation. I remember, my daughter growing up, if I said one thing, she would ask me why. Why? Not for, just ask you why. Yeah. And these days, they're questioning everything that our generation ever touched. So now, let's go back to some of your work or works. Could you elaborate on your Finding Me program, and how it helps teenagers in their self-discovery and transition into adulthood? Honestly,
Finding Me is just one of the programs that we run, and especially with brighter girls. ADF has pivoted into now working with the ecosystems. But with brighter girls, we ran workshops that were largely around life skills. And that life skills, like I said, for teenagers, it starts with who are you, who am I? So Finding Me is one of the programs we run or we ran on different skills. There's this program we run in public schools. It had the Finding Me element in it because children at that age, they begin to question, who am I? They're moving, they're growing, I won't say growing out, but, just because they're now going to secondary school. Once they move out and they come into a new space of people, right? Then I say, who am I? Some children were so smart in primary school, they get into secondary school, and all of a sudden they are looking for themselves. They now see a whole lot of other people start questioning, who am I? So Finding Me is a foundational program that we use to help teenagers to navigate to their identity. Like I said, it's foundational. Right, so it's just one of the programs and that we run. We've run different programs. We've run a career drive program in public school. We've run self-leadership workshops.
And you've also done the Brighter Life.
The Brighter Girls.
The Brighter Girls.
So Brighter Girls is the
Life
NGO that I
initiative.
started 2016.
That sounds interesting.
Yes.
It's to empower young girls. Yes.
Yes.
Aha. So how do you ensure that this works for girls specifically?
Yes. We've pivoted to working with boys now, but Brighter Girls was focused on girls, and we wanted to give girls the tools to navigate their teenage years, so that we prepared them for a fulfilling future. So we ran series of life skills, finding yourself, self-discovery, emotional intelligence, self-leadership, career pathways. We also ran a program called Arrive Ready. Arrive Ready was for children going into the university, because it's a different world entirely. So in their SS3 or year 11, we had this program we used to run during summer, and it was preparing them for school. So Brighter Girls is focusing on the core skills that children need that sometimes schools don't focus on, but it's super important for life itself.
I agree.
Yeah, so we identify those programs, and at different times we run those programs.
I really agree. I totally agree with that. And I told you at the beginning that I'm so green with envy. I mean, especially with your NLP practice. I've always wished to be, to go into NLP. Maybe it's not too late, yes?
I know, right?
So as a certified CBT and NLP practitioner, how do these disciplines enhance your work in teen development and parenting?
Amazing. When we talk about the work we do with teenagers, and we talk about discovery, identity, it's a discourse that starts from your mind. You're looking at thought patterns, and you realize that teenagers are always in and out of their thoughts, thinking. Something happens to them. We talk about mental health today. Something happens to them, it stays on their mind. They are ruminating about it. And what goes on inside becomes what they think of themselves largely. So the practice of CBT helps you to help young people to navigate their thoughts. When they are able to navigate their thoughts, and you're able to influence their thoughts or shift their thoughts, their perspective changes, right? And once their perspective changes, they begin to think new thoughts and also act differently. So CBT and NLP, the practice helps you to understand behavioral patterns. It also helps you to understand people's thought pattern, right? And how I take it further is life skill mastery. Because a lot of times mental health can stay with how is my well-being. Life skill is what helps you to take precise action.
Yes.
I'm not feeling good today, so what do I do? Right? Emotional intelligence is part of life skills. So emotional intelligence will help you to name your feeling, identify the why of your feeling, and now take you to the process of, if I'm feeling like this, why am I feeling like this, and what I need to do. So this progression of certification, right, is what help us to get grounded in the work we do. From knowing your thoughts, helping you navigate behavioral patterns, to life skills development courses that I have taken that now help us to give young people the tools, because that's the gap that we're having. It's not just about this is how I'm feeling. It's about our children. Do our children have the skills to navigate that? How do you say no to people? How do you say no to your friends? How do you say no to yourself, which is discipline or delayed gratification? So life skill, I feel, is even the peak of these certifications, because it directly gives young people the skills that they need to navigate themselves, their environment, and prepares them for the future.
Wow, awesome. Awesome. So you know what we'll do? We'll chew on that for a minute. We'll take a break now, and when we come back, we'll continue with this conversation.
Amazing. Thank you.
Stay with us. So thanks for staying with us. This is Today with John and Helen, and I've been having quite an interesting conversation here with Fola. And the last time before the break, she was telling us about CBT, and NLP, and how it impacts on parenting. So now let's move on, because this is really getting it's getting hotter. So you mentioned that parenting is leadership in its highest form. Yeah. Can you explain what that means to you, and how do you incorporate this philosophy into your work with parents and with teens?
Absolutely. Parenting is leadership in its highest form. And I'm going to try narrowing down on the C-suites, people I work with, because they are leaders in their rights, in their works, in their offices, their businesses, and just in the society. Parenting is like that. Imagine a boss at work or a leader at work. The goal is to first create a vision. Or sometimes it starts with having a vision, having an idea. Now, putting it on paper in a way that people can see and people can execute. Parenting also starts from that. It is super critical for a parent in their leadership role to have a vision for their families, and even more so for each child. Not just having a vision, they must tick the box of how can I take that vision from my mind to paper and into execution. So that's leadership. And you see, the tough terrain of being in offices, and you have different departments, and you have different people, and you have to navigate. It's same with parenting. When you have more than a child, you have to be able to navigate how are they different, right? How can I make tailored decision for each child? Now, because a child goes to this particular school, it might not be the best for another child. Sometimes just even navigating sibling rivalry, making the best decisions, that's part of leadership. And you can see that just like it shows up, in the workspace, right? It's that same structure has to be followed through her home. Another form of leadership that parents need to come to is their foresight function. Ability to foresee, right? Ability to foresee, just like we're talking about Gen Zs are different. And we're saying that the influences, they're largely influenced by the environment. Can a parent use the ability to foresee, design a pathway for their child? That's leadership. Another part is rallying a troop, just like leaders rally troops, in your offices. You have to hire staff, you have to delegate, you have to designate tasks to people. Same thing with home. You got to be able to understand, who is my support system? Who do I need to take care of my child? And sometimes that's not your uncle or your sister. Sometimes it's not grandma, because teenagers know how to navigate.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So you need to understand that's part of leadership. And I think the last one I'll mention is the power of influence. Parenting doesn't just stay in the role and in the place of authority. Parents have authority, but there is a bigger cater to that, and that is influence. When your child sees you, knows you, love you, and put you in a place where they give you permission, almost permission that you can influence me. Not all parents can influence their children.
Yes, that's right.
Some parents just sit in the position of parents, and they stay in the seat of authority. They tell the child, this is what you have to do. But it shifts when a parent comes to a place of influence, you know, where their lifestyle, the way they you know put themselves together, you know, and their ability to connect, to understand, to love their children uniquely now turns to influence. And that's leadership. You know, you come into an office and the way you lead, the way you position yourself, all of a sudden people love you. Yes. Right? A parent also needs to know that you have to order yourself in such light that you're not just a person from a place of authority, right? You are also a person that can influence your child. So that takes skills, actually. It takes skills. But if you look at it, you see that those are forms of leadership.
Yes.
Those are forms of leadership. And children and teenagers need that level of leadership from their parents.
I'm sure you noticed that I smiled through all of that.
Yes.
Because for me, what I teach is executive speech skills.
Nice.
Because I see it as a leadership skill. I don't call it public speaking. I don't teach elocution. What I teach is communication, clarity in your communication, connecting with your audience, connecting with... So what the picture you just painted has excited me so much. Because it just fits, you know.
Yes.
Because that's also a leadership skill, which all parents need.
Communication. Like communication. Some days ago, I think it was last term, I was taking my kids, we were going out. I just picked them from the train and we were going out. And my son their nails were long. And they just picked them, my boys in boarding school. I just picked them from the train and their nails were long. And I just said it. I said, before we get to where we're going, I don't want to say the nails. And they were going to say, Mommy, but I repeated it in a way that I wasn't mincing what I said. I just repeated it. I affirmed it. And I said, this is the last time I'll say, before we get to where we're going, just make sure I don't see the nails. However the nails disappear, I don't want to see the nails. Now, that might be like a funny part, but a parent needs to master authority, what authority means, how to communicate it. And that is when you move away from communication into yelling, it means that you have lost ground.
Yes, you have.
You're actually fighting. People think yelling is you exerting authority. You are actually losing ground.
Yes.
Because where there is influence and authority,
you don't have to.
You don't yell.
You don't need to yell.
You don't yell. When you have the right system in place, you don't yell. And you stay and you exert your authority.
Let's go a little bit more into Fola herself.
Okay.
Because you talked about your boys.
Yes.
Right? As a mother of boys, how does your personal experience shape your approach to parenting, especially when advising others who come for your program? Now we're dealing with boys now. I know that dealing with boys is a different kettle of fish to dealing with girls. Also they say.
So they say, that's how I start. So they say, my sister will say, oh my God, my boys are my guinea pigs. They've made me a better parent and they've made me a better coach.
Okay.
And honestly, as my boys have graduated and moved up, becoming teenagers in secondary school, it has sharpened my parenting skills. And I can say that I live what I teach and I teach what I live because of the gift of experience that I have, you know, engaging them. My philosophy, I think, is wrapped around a framework I developed called the 7 Phases of Parenting, which starts with knowing your child.
Yes.
Knowing your child. And knowing your child honestly starts from the cradle. You know, starts from the cradle. You need to understand the peculiarities of a child, their strength, their weakness, their interest, because that is where the seat of parenting is. You know, when my son was 2, whenever I got upset, his breathing at that age will go up. Whenever his brother upset, he breathes really fast. Now, another parent that isn't taking note will probably tell a 17-year-old that you have anger issues. But because you have tracked it early,
Yes.
you now see it as the child's peculiarity. And it gives you the opportunity to begin to nurture, support, and balance that part of them.
Yes.
So my philosophy, how I've raised them, tailored parenting, knowing that what is at stake with parenting is high. You are not raising a child to impress you or to earn you a badge, which sometimes we do when our children do so well.
Yeah, you're proud of the
You're so
badge.
proud of them.
You get your flowers.
But the
and you're good.
goal is to raise a child that can thrive independently. So you got to have a long-term game in mind.
Yeah.
If your child is struggling with something right now, you have a choice to say, you are embarrassing me, you're disgracing me, you are not an obedient child, you're a bad child. You have a choice to stay there or to say that if I don't help this child with this nature, with this habit, it's going to show up as an adult and it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
So a parent has to have the long game in mind. Take what you have as a child in a seed form. Ask yourself, how can I nurture this seed in a way that in another 10 years, this seed doesn't need me again. It can thrive by himself.
Right.
That starts with you knowing the child, knowing the seed, creating the structure and the system peculiar to that seed, that will, on the long run, help that seed, which is a child now, to grow and thrive independently. Which I think is legacy.
Wow.
Right.
I hope you have all of this in a book, written in a book somewhere.
Coming soon.
Coming soon. So now, back to emotional intelligence, because I see that all through this discussion, is we've touched on emotional intelligence. Means that you have to be aware. What role do you think that emotional intelligence plays in the development of our teenagers, the way we know them, and how do you cultivate this in the programs that you have?
Emotional intelligence is a superpower.
Yes.
Is a super key. It starts with a child knowing themselves, identifying their emotions, knowing how they're feeling. And it layers on parents giving them the permission to own what they're feeling and speak what they're feeling. That's where it starts from.
Okay.
So a child of a 3-year-old doesn't feel right and is able to identify that this is how I feel right now. I don't want to share, for instance. And he or she knows that feeling. Parents create an environment where they can express that feeling. What we have done on the long run is that we are nursing an emotional intelligent child, because emotional intelligence starts with self-awareness, understanding what is going on inside, communicating what you are feeling inside, and then creating a pathway to deal with what you're going through inside. So it starts with that.
A deep understanding.
Yes, a deep understanding. Now, when we have that in place, as children grow older, we now give them the tools, not only to identify or label what is going on, but to also label what is going on with other people and in their environment. Interestingly, today I was having a conversation with my son before I came today. And I was saying, Mommy, I had a dream. And he told me the dream. And it boiled down to emotional intelligence. And I said, given your peculiarity, he has a strong character, he's a very driven child. I said you must be able to master emotional intelligence, because you must know how to react, what is going on with you. You must know how to engage other people. You must be kind and compassionate enough with other people, right? And you must know how to smell the room. It can't be about you, right? Yes. So that's emotional intelligence. Starts with awareness, right? Then advocacy, you being able to voice it and then self-management.
Okay.
Then you self-manage yourself, then also managing other people. So it becomes very critical tool for young people right now.
Yes.
Right? Because when they're able to know themselves, they're able to take decisions. If somebody is rubbing on you badly, if somebody is trying to take advantage of you, it doesn't matter the color of that person, it doesn't matter who that person shows up at. If you know that this makes me feel, this feels wrong.
Yes.
You know it. You identify it, you label it by saying, this is how I feel. Then the next level is, what do I do with how I feel? It becomes a very critical tool, even in fighting resilience, mental health.
Yes.
To say that, this is how I'm feeling, I need to come up with strategies to deal with it. So it's a super skill and a life skill that every teenager
You know what?
needs
You
to
know
have.
what, Fola? I would love to be at your next. You hold sessions
For parents too.
for parents,
Yes.
even retired parents.
Retired parents that are influencing societies are leaders.
Great.
Right?
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So finally, what advice would you give to parents navigating the tricky transition of helping their teens move into adulthood, while maintaining a strong relationship? So how would you advise them?
We need to see transition not as an event. Transition is not something that happens when you move from year 6 to secondary school, or when your child goes from year 11 to the university. Transition has to be seen as a journey and as a strategy. So a parent needs to have the long game in mind. Guess what? All of us are dealing with transitions. And the role of a parent is to eventually help your child transit from childhood to teenagers and to young adulthood, eventually adulthood. So we are all practitioners in the transition game.
We're all in the transition.
Yes, we're all in the transition.
We also have to.
Yes. So parents need to understand that, what is my transition strategy? What are the systems and structures I am putting in place? What are the skills I need to get as my children's transition? And the first skill I will talk about is knowledge.
Okay.
You need to know your child. One, you need to know what comprises of the childhood phase. You need to know what comprises of the pre-teens and the teenage phase.
Yeah.
You need to prepare your child, your 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old child, for transition for the next stage.
So it's a continuous.
It's a continuous one. It's a continuous one. The problem we have is that parents are resulting to winging it or parenting by default, autopilot. We just feel as if children will be fine. You take a child from Nigeria to a cold country, a country like Canada, far away. You put a child in a school where he's the only black. And somehow we believe that they will be fine. It doesn't happen that way.
It doesn't.
Transition has to be seen through the lens of a journey and a strategy. It's work. What worked now may not work later. It may not work in the next phase.
Great.
So every parent needs to have that big view and needs to ask, what will help me first, you first, to equip my child or support my child through that transition? And that makes a case for continuous learning.
And that makes a case. It really makes a case, because we have to anchor this. We have to anchor this somewhere. I mean, I'm just beginning to get into it, but I'm going to be cruel. I'm going to ask that we end the conversation now, and we pick it up again at some later point, because I see that it's even bigger than what we imagined.
I know.
So really, Fola, your insights today have truly illuminated the importance of shaping our teens' future through intentional guidance and emotional intelligence. And I want to thank you for sharing your wisdom.
Thank you.
It's clear that the future of our teens is in capable hands with experts like you.
Thank you.
Guiding the way. So now let's shift gears and end the show today, and with my nugget on executive speech skills, and I'm happy you're here.
Yeah.
It's an essential tool for leaders and professionals who want to communicate with impact and influence. And my nugget today is this: the way we talk to our children becomes their inner voice. And that nugget actually is by Peggy O'Mara. Because words are powerful. They shape our thoughts, our emotions, and ultimately the trajectory of our lives. As parents, educators, leaders, and mentors, we hold the power to shape not just the actions of our children, but their very self-belief and inner dialogue. So when we speak to them with kindness, encouragement, and understanding, we plant seeds of confidence, resilience, and self-worth. Conversely, harsh words, criticism, or neglect can create inner voices filled with doubt and insecurity, which can also echo throughout their lives. As Peggy O'Mara beautifully reminds us, the way we talk to our children becomes their inner voice. Every conversation is an opportunity to nurture their minds and hearts. Let's speak life into them. That is my nugget for today.
Amazing, and I agree.
And on that note, I'd like to thank you. I'd also like to thank our viewers for being with us through today's show. Apologies, Helen is not able to be with us today, but I assure you that next week she will be here. The show is Today with John and Helen live, and there is a repeat on Saturday night at 10:30 and Sunday mornings at 9:30 on Plus TV Africa, DSTV 408 and Star Times 308. I am John Senaya, and I've enjoyed every minute of today's program. See you again next time.